Welcome to Conversations. I'm Muqtadar Khan, your host, and as you can see, I have with me once again one of the most popular and highly respected guests that we have, Ambassador Talmiz Ahmed, who is a distinguished diplomat. In the back, you can see I have books written by Ibn Khaldun, who was a very famous scholar, a historian, and also a diplomat, one of the earliest ones. And so whenever I think of Talmiz Ahmed Saab, I think of him as a modern day Ibn Khaldun. And so I'm very honored that you are here, sir. In fact, next time I see
Thank you very much, Muqtadar Khan, sir.
So you always remind me of Ibn Khaldun. So today we are going to review a few things. We are going to look at primarily three things. So people should know that we are first going to talk about what impact, if any, the election of Zohran Mamdani as mayor of New York will have on India-US relations, if at all. And then we will talk about the Abrahamic Accords. Donald Trump has announced an expansion into Central Asia, with Kazakhstan expressing interest to sign on, and whether it has been beneficial or not. I just did a short video yesterday making fun of the tweet that Donald Trump issued about how Abrahamic Accord strengthens nations who join it. I said, has he looked at Sudan? It has not helped Sudan at all being a member of the Abrahamic Accords. And then we will talk about the much already written about it. Much has been written about Xi Jinping's meeting with Donald Trump, but I would like to hear from Talmiz Ahmed Saab whether this has, whether that meeting has legs, whether it will have a long-term impact on the global balance of power, and especially on India's relations with China as well as the US. So welcome to Conversations, Ambassador Sahab. And my first question to you, how do you react to the election of Talmiz Ahmed, and do you think it's going to have any impact on US-India relations?
Mamdani's election is overwhelmingly a domestic matter. It is a comment on USA's domestic politics, deeply polarized into right wing and left wing. And in fact, a lot of American writing is speaking of the administration itself actually espousing a far right agenda. Mamdani has challenged this. He was abused by the American president publicly and repeatedly. Numerous other elements of the American right wing raked up the issue of his Islamic identity, called him a terrorist. A very senior person even suggested that he might celebrate another attack on New York in terms of 9/11. Some of the most obnoxious rhetoric that you can imagine was uttered in the run-up to the election. The president himself called him a Marxist, a communist Marxist, and there was a lot of imagery, public imagery, with regard to hammer and sickle, etc., suggesting, in terms of the commentary that I saw from distinguished writers, that this could become the way in which the Republicans will seek to approach next year's midterm elections. As far as India is concerned, the response is reflective of the polarization we have in our own country. Zohran Mamdani exemplifies a certain Indian identity. The Indian identity that is liberal, that is secular, that is comfortable with the multiple engagements with different types of people. Mamdani himself has a mixed background of Hindu and Muslim. He has visited temples like many of us, including myself. As the Indian ambassador, I was a frequent visitor at Indian temples and Indian churches and the Gurudwara, and occasionally the mosque, whenever an occasion was required as the Indian ambassador. Therefore, Mamdani is, if I may put it in a short form, he is Nehruvian. And therefore, not astonishingly, not surprisingly, he quoted Nehru. The words he used resonate very powerfully with us. In fact, they are known to all of us. There is the alternative idea of India. This is the idea of India which is now increasingly being mentioned as Nehruvian, though it is not Nehruvian. Please recall that the entire freedom movement of India was founded on these principles, and these principles were then enshrined in the Indian constitution. The questioning of that constitution and that national consensus at the dawn of our independence does not mean that the alternative view has much resonance. This is going back to the 19th century when many of the issues relating to the future of India were being discussed and debated. And in this discussion and in this debate, an alternative point of view, a point of view that was accommodative, that upheld multiculturalism, that believed that faith is a personal matter, and that the Indian state should function for the weakest and commit itself to development on the basis of globally accepted norms and principles. To call them Nehruvian is a short form, not absolutely acceptable, but it is now well known what it means. The challenge to this has come from Hindutva. To my mind, this is not an alternative ideology. It is, to my mind, a populist moment, a populist right wing moment in our political churn. It has very little resonance in terms of our culture and our history and the national experience over the last millennium. It is a product of a certain set of circumstances within our political system. It does not necessarily represent the vast majority of our people. But there is this alternative view, which is now called Hindutva. They would be the ones who would despise Mamdani because he reflects everything that in our own ethos is called Nehruvian. And he has a record. He has a record of criticizing many of the aspects of the BJP, which is in ruling authority. He has also used certain terminologies with regard to our top leadership from time to time. Having said all this, I should emphasize the fact that this is at the end of the day a domestic development which is likely to resonate in American domestic politics. As far as India-US relations are concerned, I don't think there is anything new here. We have to deal with the phenomenon of Donald Trump. In my last engagement with you, I had said that there is the real world and there is the alternative universe exemplified by Donald Trump. Donald Trump continues to live within this alternative universe, which has very little to do with reality. He creates his own successes, his own enemies, his own close friends, his own understanding of various events with which he is involved, which have nothing to do with reality. But that again, I would emphasize to you, is an issue that the Americans have to handle. Where the rest of the world is concerned, given the fact that the United States is a major global power, obviously some of the policies of the top leadership, however misguided they may be, however ill-advised they may be, they do impact upon us in different ways. But certainly, Mr. Mamdani's election is not going to be a factor in Indo-US relations. It is more likely to be the persona of the president himself, his desperate desire, as I speak to you, for the Nobel Peace Prize, his resentment about the fact that our Indian leaders did not uphold his great role in bringing about peace between India and Pakistan. These are some of the most puerile issues we have to deal with, which are not serious issues, but yet they are the ones that appear to be resonating in the White House, and they are the ones that are likely to determine the content and direction of our relationship.
I think I agree with you that Mamdani's election may not have any direct impact on India-US relations unless India tries to make it, because one of the less talked about stories is the opposition to Mamdani's campaign by Hindutva groups here in the US. A lot of money was spent. They even took planes and had all kinds of announcements saying that Mamdani is anti-Hindu and please don't vote for him. So there was a campaign by the proxies of Hindutva movement here in the US, but they did not have any significant impact even on the Hindu vote in New York City. And of course, his entire term is going to be dominated by the Israeli issue. So I think that whatever foreign policy impact he's going to have, it's going to be on towards US-Israel relations. But I want to share this particular post by Donald Trump about basically he came up with this. Let me see if I can read it to you at least. He came up with this announcement that Kazakhstan is going to join the Abrahamic Accords, and in which he made this particular sentence. He said, "We will soon announce a signing ceremony to make it official, and there are many more countries trying to join this club of strength. So much more to come in uniting countries for stability and growth." I mean, this is what he's trying to say are the benefits of joining the Abrahamic Accords. It's going to bring stability, it's going to bring growth. There are only 4 Abrahamic Accord countries, Bahrain, Morocco, UAE, and Sudan, and 25% of them, which is Sudan, is in civil war, genocide, and complete disaster. And part of the blame some people attribute to the role that UAE is playing in Sudan, which is these 2 Abrahamic countries. So, like you said, there is a reality out there, and then Donald Trump's imagination. So I wanted to hear your thoughts on the Abrahamic Accords. Has it been beneficial at all to anybody other than Israel? And why would a country like Kazakhstan want to join?
In his first term, Donald Trump had no achievement in the area of foreign affairs. I don't know about domestic affairs, but certainly in foreign affairs. And there was an air of desperation in the White House that he must achieve something. And the UAE obliged by normalizing ties with Israel in August 2020. The UAE calculation was very objective. It was that if, as a result of what we've done, Trump and Netanyahu win the election, we are all right. Even if they don't win, aspects of the American right wing will be happy with us, so we win anyway. And in any case, the UAE had a set of relations with the Israelis which were clandestine, particularly in the areas of technology, security and technology, as well as with regard to technology, artificial intelligence and what have you, surveillance technology. So they had nothing to lose. In the event, both Trump and Netanyahu lost the election, but it didn't matter. This was the circumstances in which that accord was done. I have objected to the use of Abraham Accord from day one. And in my writings, I have never used that term. I think that the term is unacceptable and obnoxious. Why? What does the holy prophet of the Old Testament, someone who is revered by Jews, Christians, and Muslims, Hazrat Ibrahim, we call him.
Yes.
Why should he be associated with this opportunistic arrangement, which was put up in a set of electoral circumstances with 2 completely wily and very self-centered individuals in play? I have never called it the Abraham Accord. But what is the height of absurdity? It is bewildering. I am now by now used to extraordinary things happening in your capital. But nothing prepared me for the announcement that Kazakhstan has joined the Abraham Accord. Kazakhstan has had diplomatic ties with Israel from 1992.
Right. Yes. Yes.
So what are we talking about?
Yeah.
What has happened? So there is a lot. I mean, we would find this weird that the American president should say that Kazakhstan has joined the Abraham Accord. What accord is he joining? He's already there. He's already has normal ties. So now certain writers, particularly pro-Israel writers in the United States, have attempted to explain this. Oh, the Abraham Accord is a bloc. It is a bloc of moderate countries, which are Muslim, Arab, and otherwise Muslim countries, which are increasingly engaging with Israel, which see Israel as a source of important political and economic advantage for themselves. And slowly but surely, this is the bloc that is expanding, and it is going to challenge all those Muslim extremists that we have. This is absolute rubbish. There is no such bloc. There is no such bloc whatsoever. And if Israel wants, some sensible people in the United States have said very clearly that if Israel wishes to have a substantial future in regional and world affairs, it has to address the Palestine issue. There is no shortcut. This was the mischief that was propagated earlier before the Hamas attack. Oh, you don't need to worry about the Palestine issue. Focus on Iran and focus on Iran, and then Iran is the source of all the insecurity, instability, and violence in the region. Absolute rubbish. Today, and I'm going to say this very carefully and clearly, today, as far as the region is concerned, whether it is West Asia or Central Asia or South Asia or Southeast Asia, we are convinced that the principal source of instability, insecurity, and violence is Israel.
I mean, that's a
Therefore,
very,
there is no value to be attached to this absolutely weird and idiotic statement.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. And it looks as if that the Kazakhs are actually trying to take Donald Trump for a ride. Because yes, as you said, they've had diplomatic relations for 30 years. So what are they truly normalizing? It is quite possible that, they, like you said, the benefits that UAE was having with some of the surveillance technology, which even was provided to India at one given time, such technology might become available for Kazakhstan from Israel. So in order to just say that, look, there are some benefits to joining this
I
club.
think they are all there.
Yeah.
I think my principal concern, which I must share with you, Professor, is that world leaders are playing on the ego
Of Donald Trump.
of your president.
Yes, I
They
agree.
have calculated, they have assessed him.
Yeah.
They know his vulnerabilities. A remarkably self-absorbed and self-centered individual, totally focused on his ego. They are playing him, which is an embarrassment. You know, I must tell you, United States, all said and done, is a very major player in world affairs. You don't need a cartoon figure to be your president. These are all past masters
I
and
agree.
powerful political leaders. They've been around for years and decades. They
Yes.
are playing him, playing
No,
on his ego for and getting a certain advantage for themselves. Some of them don't want the tariff, some of them want the equipment. You saw a certain prime minister of a European country sat with him and was assured that okay, you can continue buying you can continue buying Russian oil
yeah.
because you are a landlocked country. These are all players.
Yes, I agree
And
with you.
you have, as an American citizen, I'm an outsider, but even I am appalled at the dexterity with which all these outside leaders come, sit with the man, play on his ego, and go back with a signed check.
The difference is that this time he has recruited only yes men all around him. I mean, they are people with no guts and no character. Rubio, in my opinion, is is like a toad, a little frog from some little pond, and he does not have the courage or guts to tell Donald Trump that, look, Orban completely played you. The whole purpose of having the new Russian sanctions has been completely undermined by
By
Orban.
the way, the president is being played not just by foreign leaders,
By
also
domestic,
by your own citizens who are
that
hanging around him.
I agree with you, and I think that the recent elections and also it's quite possible that the Supreme Court might shoot down the tariffs, creating a crisis. But I do want to ask one more question about Kazakhstan. So I went back, and when I did this brief show on this Abrahamic Accords, I looked at the trade that Kazakhstan has. As of 2024, Kazakhstan, not just Kazakhstan, the Central Asia trade with China is $95 billion. With Russia, it is $45 billion. With the US, it is $3.4 billion, like
Yes,
130.
yes, Professor.
Yeah. And with India, it's even less, actually, about less than 2 billion. So why would China be okay with what Kazakhstan tries to
I
say?
wanted to say to you, the Central Asians are doing to your president what the Gulf leaders did a short while ago. Just
They're playing him.
feed him with the talk of billions of dollars. It seems to be
Yeah.
something that gives him extraordinary enthusiasm and joy.
Yeah.
Billions of dollars. Even $1 trillion is mentioned.
By
The bilateral trade
yeah.
between Uzbekistan and the US last year was $881 million.
$1 billion. Yes.
And we are told by the US president that Uzbekistan is going to buy American equipment, American manufacture, American goods to the tune of $100 billion over
Yeah.
the next 10 years.
That's
$10 billion every year. I mean, this has nothing to do with reality. And again, I would say to you, with all humility, that these guys are playing the American president with all this flair. And he then announces to his gullible audience, I got $1 billion here, several $billion here. You know what happened with the Gulf. You're
yeah.
talking about $1 trillion
Yeah.
at that
Nothing.
time. And all of us knew this kind of money is simply not there. None of this is going to happen. Let's get a reality check. But instead of getting any reality check, you have our brethren from Central Asia playing the same game because they learned from their Gulf brethren.
Even the new Japanese prime minister, she just became prime minister, and she also basically copied Shehbaz Sharif by
It
saying,
is
"Oh, we will
becoming
nominate
embarrassing. You see, this obsession with rare earth.
Yeah.
It is now the president is being propelled forward in diplomacy with this desire that I must have access to rare earth because China controls 70% of it and processes 90% of world's rare earth. And therefore, when he engaged with Zelensky, he talked about rare earths and did a contract with him on rare earth. When he talked to Putin, he talked about rare earth. When he talked to the Japanese prime minister, it was about rare earth. Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, again about rare earth.
So I think Trump, in advertising, we have this concept called recency and primacy effect. Some people only remember what they see in the beginning, and then some people only remember what they see towards the end. So you have to have a good beginning and a good end to have an impact on everybody. So I think Donald Trump, I think he does not fully listen to what people are telling him, right? So, for example, he has been told that the only leverage China has on us is rare earth minerals, and we need to do something about it. What he's not realizing is that China not only controls the mining of rare earth, China also controls the production. The rare earth is not rare, first of all. It's available very widely, except that it's like purifying uranium to make a bomb, right? It needs to be purified and isolated from all the other things.
Process.
So China also controls the technology which does that. So even if the US, let's say, gets hold of all of Australia's rare earth minerals, they will have to go to China and say, please purify this and then make it usable. And I think he's not paying attention to the full discussion of it. And I was looking at some projections that even 10 years from now, China will have more than 50% of control on rare earth minerals, even if everything that the US is trying to do will happen. So this is a good segue to turn to the meeting that President Trump had with Xi Jinping in Busan, South Korea. Uh, and I might actually go there very soon. Uh, my question to you is that a lot of people saw that as a possible turning point. In fact, yesterday I wrote a piece in the Diplomat asking the question that this talk of G2 that Xi Jinping and Trump, at least Trump has raised this on more than one occasion, that we are having a G2, diminishing the influence of G7 and maybe G20. Are we looking at some kind of a bipolar moment? Is it that big deal, or it is just another meeting? For example, when Biden met with Xi Jinping, if you remember, during the Asia Pacific Summit in San Francisco, there was a lot of hoopla about it, and I see today no impact of that particular meeting between Xi Jinping and Biden. And now, do you think that this meeting does it have significance, and does it even affect India at all?
There is a fundamental divide between the Americans on the one hand and the Chinese on the other. The Americans want instant gratification. They are obsessed with the media. They want to go and say what great guys we are. The Chinese lie low. They think things through. They don't show their hand. Only when they are ready, they come into the public domain. And they speak very softly. This is the difference. Now, what you have, President Trump exemplifies the worst aspects of this kind of instant gratification. A near total obsession with looking great for his limited constituency. He has made up his mind, make America great again. He's going to make America great. He's the world's greatest statesman and diplomat. He's going to be all over the place. If any encounter that he has, it's worth billions of dollars and millions of jobs for his people. All of this is delusional. Other countries don't function on the basis of this. When he came in his first few days, he began this tariff war. Even at that time, American commentators said this has not been thought through. Its understanding is limited. It will serve very little useful purpose and could in fact harm American interests crucially. This is what this whole business was about, tariffs, and looking very dramatic. I showed the guy $100, 100%, 50%, 100%, 150%. A kind of madness appeared to have seized that section of the White House. And we were appalled. Even those of us who are non-economists understand you have misunderstood the scenario. A few world leaders came scurrying over and touched your feet and basically pleaded with you, be kind to us. And as a grand emperor, you then gave them some paltry concessions. None of them had respect for you. None of them believed in you. None of them has any expectation that any of these discussions are worth anything. Basically, they believe that the American people, in their wisdom, have installed a president of a certain character. We have to deal with him, tolerate him, but he's not going to be there forever. And possibly, just possibly, things might get normal at some stage. Now, coming to China, threats, constant threats, no assessment of mutual strength and mutual weakness, threats. And this is not something that you do with China or indeed with any other country. Don't threaten another country. The minute you do that, that leader and that set the top leadership is also answerable to their own people. They are going to make certain things clear straight away. But in the case of China, you should assess where do your interests lie. Now, you went to China immediately when you started talking about tariffs, the Chinese responded. Cutting off soya bean,
Yeah.
cutting off rare earth. Your industry and your agriculture are on their knees. And you are then desperate to sit with Xi Jinping and plead with him, look, let's get back to normal. What is the American commentary telling us? There is no strategic vision in this entire effort at pushing these tariffs. In one moment, the Chinese were able to call you a bluff. And then again, there is no long term substance in this. Every China, India, American commentary I have read says this is a very short term, temporary truce. None of the serious issues pertaining to US China economic ties have been discussed. Very important matters, even in the political arena, were not touched upon. What you got was the Chinese reiterating to you that we will be much more effective, we will take certain measures with regard to fentanyl. And in return, we will buy your soya bean and we will also relax for 1 year the restriction on supplying you with rare earth. A very limited, a very specific, and it's a truce. It is a response to the totally misguided tariff war that had been started. It serves no useful purpose. But to my mind, and I must share this concern with you very carefully and very honestly, the American president's reference to G2 serves no American interest whatsoever.
I agree with you totally there.
The
Yeah.
G2 is not something you talk about loosely. You're talking about world order and world affairs. The United States is the leader of a very large number of countries that are its allies. They don't believe in any G2 business. You are crossing the line, abandoning your allies, crossing the line, and attempting to win over China with this slogan of G2. Not a single Chinese person believes that. It doesn't take your remarks seriously. But what you have done is you have diminished the status of your own country and diminished the standing of your own allies. You are telling China that you are the country I want to work with. G2 has a long history, a very checkered history, has never worked. No Chinese leader will ever publicly accept the concept of G2. The Chinese are publicly committed to the idea of multipolarity, and they are not going to abandon that to accommodate the president incumbent in the White House.
No, it is very clear. When I heard that comment, I was like stunned about it. It basically elevates China to the status of a peer competitor and diminishes G7 completely below this. And so I'm sure that Europeans, including Japan, the countries which are part of G7, are certainly not happy about this idea of G2. And obviously, India too does not like the idea of G2. And what was also interesting is that the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs, their readouts were not as enthusiastic about the meeting as the US readouts were. You could see the difference, isn't it? But how does...
He said the meeting was excellent and I give it on a scale of 1 to 10, I give it 12.
Yeah.
And we are all wondering, what's wrong with you, man?
Yeah, there was like, I mean, you hit the nail on the head when you say basically the only gains he got was that we have pushed the crisis 12 months away. So what he could have resolved...
Which he had himself created.
Yes.
Which he himself created.
Yeah. He could have resolved some of those issues in this meeting with Xi Jinping, but they could not, and they have pushed it back. And we will have to re-deal with this a year from now. And it's also a bit interesting that he practically said that I'm going to go to China in April, and Xi Jinping will then come here either to Mar-a-Lago or to White House. And the Chinese, there was absolutely no comment on these meetings at all. So I don't know. I think that there's this desire in Donald Trump to create breaking news, and so he basically serves the khichdi before it is cooked. He just takes it off the oven while it is still being cooked and said, "Chalo, chalo, let me feed it." Right. So I think he has revealed certain things which are still under discussion as far as the Chinese are concerned. But there are some people who argue that one of the reasons why the U.S. has been so pro-India is because they see India as a balance to China. And so if US-China relations improve, then India's strategic value to the United States reduces. And so does this meeting give America more freedom to be less accommodating towards India?
You see, the Sino-US drama is taking place on one stage, and in the Indo-US drama is taking place at a different stage.
Yeah.
And the twain are not in touch with each other.
Yeah.
In both are dealing with a president who is an incarnation of anarchy and chaos. Totally unpredictable, totally self consumed, totally dramatic as an end in itself. India was a country with which he had close ties, and he actually cherished the relationship with our Prime Minister. Possibly we did not read him well enough to realize that in the second term, we have a different human being who has entered the White House. His ire with India is not about anything serious in terms of policy. It's all about us not giving him credit publicly for bringing an end to the conflict we had with Pakistan. There is no way any Indian leader ever will publicly state that this conflict was brought to an end because the Americans forced us. It's never going to happen. Americans have played a role in the past in ending an Indo-Pakistan conflict, possibly to the relief of both sides. But never have they sought to take credit in the public domain. They're knowing full well that these are leaders who are answerable to their own people. As far as the Indian narrative is concerned, it is very clear. We gave a good account of ourselves. We were restrained but effective. We gained all our objectives. We gave Pakistan the message that it needed to be conveyed after the Pahalgam tragedy, and it is Pakistan that was particularly anxious to end the hostility. And because of that, since our objectives had been attained, we went along with it. Whatever role anybody might have played behind the scenes, the decision of our country and of our leaders was a sovereign decision. Well understood, well accepted. None of that is good. Now, he's sulking so much that he has taken up this issue of Russian oil and imposed on us tariffs of 50%. India has made it very clear that purchase of oil, like all our decisions, are sovereign decisions taken in the national interest. Anyone who seeks to humiliate us and our leaders publicly by insisting that we follow a certain track only to accommodate their interests and not ours is on the wrong side, is not going to work. And you will never gain partnership with India by insulting India and by making demands on India which are not acceptable to us and which are not in our national interest. India is a very large country, a very old country. It has asserted autonomy in decision making from the day it became a free nation. It's not going to change today. We have had numerous occasions where successive American presidents have attempted to pressurize us, and they have never once been successful. So I want to make this very clear that where we are concerned, where the US president is on the wrong track, you have to engage with India. Coming to India-China relations, I want to say categorically that Sino-Indian relations have their own logic, their own complex history and politics, and their own trajectory. It is a bilateral matter which will be resolved on both sides with good sense. We've already made progress. We have made progress. The US has not impinged in this regard at all. It is a matter for two nations which are neighbors with each other, understand each other well, and will take forward. Many of our Indians have said we have made progress. Yes, there has been disengagement on the border of troops. We are looking forward to the next step. Our leaders are in touch with each other. They had a substantial meeting on the sidelines of the BRICS summit as well as the SCO. We met in Tianjin, and I think we are making good progress. I think the wisdom of our leaders is likely to be more effective a factor in this scenario than anything the Americans might do.
Ambassador Saab, uh, I think sometimes you speak far more eloquently about India's interests and India's policies than the current establishment itself. And I really am very grateful for you to making some of these things very clear. It has been a pleasure talking to you, and as I have said before, I learn a lot from you, and the audience also really appreciates the candor and the clarity with which you speak. So I'm absolutely grateful for you for joining conversations, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor, for inviting me. Always a pleasure to have a conversation with you. Thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you very much.